Have you ever been in a situation, a meeting, a party, maybe just hanging out with friends, and you felt this invisible pull to just go along with the group? You know exactly what I'm talking about. That moment when you bite your tongue instead of sharing your real opinion, or you do something you don't really want to do just to match the vibe. We call it reading the room, and it is an incredibly powerful force in our lives. So today, let's pull back the curtain and figure out why on earth we do it.
Here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the invisible strings of social pressure. Then we'll rewind the clock to see how this all ties back to an ancient survival instinct. After that, we'll crack the code on the unspoken rules that run our lives, look at some mind-blowing experiments on the pressure to conform, and finally, the good part, we'll arm you with some strategies for self-defense.
All right, let's get right into it. Section 1, the invisible strings. This is all about those subtle, yet super strong forces that kind of steer our behavior when we're with other people. And a lot of the time, we don't even notice it's happening.
I want you to really think about that for a second. Come on, be honest. I bet a specific memory just popped into your head, didn't it? That moment where your gut was screaming one thing, but the atmosphere in the room just kind of nudged you into doing something else. It's okay. It happens to all of us. It is a fundamentally human experience.
And look at how normal these examples are. Maybe you've been stuck at the office. All your work is done, but you don't leave because your colleagues are still typing away. Or you've been in a meeting, nodding along to an idea you secretly think is a disaster. It could be something small, like not sitting in an empty chair because you just know it's the unofficial spot for someone else. Or it could be something really serious, like seeing someone get picked on and staying silent because, well, nobody else is saying anything. All of it, that's reading the room.
This quote just nails that feeling, doesn't it? That illogical pull. It really makes you wonder, why? Why do we let these invisible strings yank us around? Well, to get the answer, we have to go way, way back in time.
So here's the thing. This urge to fit in, it isn't some modern weakness. It's not a character flaw. It is a deeply, deeply wired instinct that was absolutely essential for our survival as a species for like hundreds of thousands of years. And I need you to let that sink in. This is the absolute core of it. Back in our hunter-gatherer days, being alone wasn't just about feeling lonely, it was a death sentence. Getting kicked out of the tribe meant no more protection from predators, no help finding food, no one to have your back. You were, quite literally, on your own. And that was terrifying. This deep, primal need has a name: belongingness. It's so vital that the psychologist Abraham Maslow put it right there in the middle of his famous hierarchy of needs, just after food, water, and basic safety. It's a biological drive. Our brains are hardwired to seek acceptance and avoid rejection, because for pretty much all of human history, that's what kept us alive. Okay, so we know we need to be in groups to survive, but what happens once we're in them? Well, the group starts to create its own little culture, its own rule book for how to think, act, and feel. We call these group norms, and they're basically the unwritten instruction manual for how to belong. Now, it's super important to know there are two kinds of rules. You've got your official written down rules, think laws or the company handbook, but then you have the unofficial rules, the implicit ones. These are the customs, the social etiquette, the things that really control how we act day to day. And honestly, they're often way more powerful. This is such a perfect example. Just picture a packed subway car during rush hour. There's no sign that says, do not stare at people, right? Or pretend you're invisible. And yet, everyone does it. We all automatically follow these unwritten rules. We avoid eye contact. We make ourselves small. We just fade away. It's this unspoken agreement that keeps everything from turning into chaos. But that same force can also pressure us in ways that aren't so great. And that brings us to the main event, conformity, our tendency to change our behavior and sometimes even our beliefs to match the group. Now, this is where things get really, really interesting, because some classic experiments have shown just how shockingly powerful this pressure can be. Okay, check this out. Back in 1935, a guy named Muzaffer Sherif did a cool experiment. He put people in a pitch-black room and shined a single dot of light on the wall. Now, here's the trick. The light wasn't actually moving, but in total darkness, your eyes played tricks on you, and it looks like it is. When he asked people alone how far it moved, their answers were all over the place. But when he put them in a group where they could hear each other's answers, something amazing happened. Their estimates started to get closer and closer until they all agreed on a shared reality, a group norm, even though the whole thing was based on an illusion. But that was an ambiguous situation, right? What happens when the answer is crystal clear? That's what Solomon Asch wanted to know.
He set up a super simple test. Just look at the screen. Which line on the right, A, B, or C, is the same length as the one on the left? It's C, obviously. It's not a trick. And yeah, when people did this task by themselves, they got it right more than 99% of the time. It's a piece of cake. But Ash wasn't testing people's vision. He was testing the power of social pressure. So he put one real person in a room full of actors, and he told the actors to all give the same, obviously wrong answer. The results? It was stunning. The real person's error rate shot up to 32%. A third of the time, people would knowingly say the wrong thing just to avoid standing out. Can you imagine the anxiety, the sweat on your palms as you hear person after person give an answer that your own eyes are telling you is wrong? You literally start to doubt what you see just to fit in.
So why? Why do we do this to ourselves? Well, psychologists say it boils down to two main reasons. The first is informational influence. That's like in the dark room with the light. You think, well, maybe they know something I don't. The group is probably right. But the second one, and this is often the big one, is normative influence. This is what was happening in the line experiment. People knew the group was wrong, but they went along anyway because they wanted to be liked, and they were terrified of the conflict and awkwardness of being the lone dissenter.
And that fear is based in reality. Those social consequences are very, very real. When you step out of line, peer pressure kicks in. This isn't just in your head. Other group members might start watching you more closely. You might become the target of gossip. In some cultures, like in Japan, there's a concept called murahachibu, which is basically being completely shunned by the community, a kind of social death. And at work, it could mean getting passed over for a promotion. The price for being different can be steep. Okay, hearing all that can feel a little bit bleak. I get it. But it's not a hopeless situation. Now that we understand the deep evolutionary reasons why we read the room, we can learn how to deal with it. We can't just switch this instinct off, but we can learn to master it. So this section is all about arming yourself with some practical strategies for social self-defense. Here are 4 big ones. First, just develop awareness. The next time you feel that pull to agree, just pause. Ask yourself, am I agreeing because I actually think this is right, or am I just on autopilot? Second, establish your limits. Know what your core values are and decide ahead of time what you will and will not compromise on. Third, use what's called strategic conformity. Sometimes you gotta pick your battles. You might publicly go along with something to keep the peace while privately holding on to your own beliefs. And number 4, and this is maybe the most powerful of all, find an ally. And this right here shows you just how insanely effective that is. Remember the line experiment? When Ash reran it but had just one other actor give the correct answer, breaking the group's unity, the real person's conformity rate absolutely plummeted. It went from 32% all the way down to 5%. Just having one other person in your corner gives you the courage to trust your own gut. It's a game changer. So here's the big takeaway. This instinct to conform, it's not good or bad, it's just human. It evolved to protect us. The goal isn't to crush it or pretend it doesn't exist. The goal is to understand it, to be aware of it, and to master it. When you do that, the group stops being a cage for who you are and becomes what it was always meant to be, a tool for survival and success. So, the next time you find yourself reading the room and you feel that pressure, just remember you have a choice. You can be a conscious participant in your social world, not just a passive follower. In our next video, we'll take a closer look at strategies for surviving the group.